Bushiroad unveils their new tournament circuit. Apparently, shadow paneling cards got leaked. And did they just break Oracle Think Tank? Let's talk about that.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we've got an unsurprising, very exciting Cardfight update, as we didn't expect to have a lot of interesting information revealed to us, as this was a typical relaxed stream week, as a new set is going to be released very soon, so they tend to do a fight, and that's about everything. But today we've got a lot of interesting information, as we got the new tournament series information, as well as the final OTT high rarity card, which is insane. And we also got some new information for the upcoming Luard or Shadow Paladin support wave for VBT 10, which is actually rather interesting. But without further ado, let's jump right into the big one, and that's the upcoming new tournament circuit that is going to replace the Bushiroad BCS that they cancelled, as we're going to have the new Bushiroad Shop League. And this is an interesting thing, because this is a local level tournament series, but it's not one single tournament like we see with the shop challenges. It's gonna be multiple tournaments where you're gonna rank up points over all these tournaments, and then at the end of a season, you collect and add up all these points, and the player with the highest points is then the winner of that season. And this is rather unique for Vanguard, as mostly our tournament series is per tournament. You get a result in the tournament, and that's basically what your standing is, and that's it. The next tournament doesn't account for what you performed in the previous tournament. So this brings competitivity to a whole nother level for Vanguard, which I really like, and I hope they're gonna continue on this for a future series. But let's go into the details how this actually works. So this is a local level tournament, so it's gonna be more on a casual side because it's your local level, and it's also only going to be on your local level. There's not going to be multiple levels like we've seen with regionals, nationals, and that kind of stuff. It's just your local shop. Then also, these tournaments are obviously a single man tournament. So you don't have teams, you don't have duos. It's just you participating in a tournament as a single person. Now, they also set a limit that a shop can only hold a tournament for a game a maximum once a week. So they cannot hold two tournaments that will account for this circuit in one single week. They need to be separated at least 7 days apart, or maybe just one on Sunday and the other can be on Monday if it's at least another week. I don't know the exact details, but they specify only once a week. And that basically means a shop can hold a maximum of 8 tournaments in a single season, because a season is going to be lasting for 2 months, so 8 weeks. As we're going to have 2 seasons, and the first one is going to go from September to October, and the second season is going to be from November to December. So 2 seasons, 2 months, 8 weeks. Potentially 8 tournaments per local shop, but it all depends on your local shop, how many they can host, and what their agenda allows them to do. So it doesn't mean every single shop is going to have 8 tournaments. Maybe some will have 3 tournaments, maybe some have 5, maybe some have 7. And this basically goes into the next major point about the tournament, as you're going to rank up points, but you cannot collect points from one local shop and take them to another shop. These point systems are going to be separated per shop, which is rather nice for certain individuals that do not have the luxury to either travel to far distances or are stuck in an area where there's only one local shop available to them. Meaning, every single shop will have their own rankings, their own leaderboards, and that allows players within a certain area to have a chance to become number 1 or 2nd or 3rd place or whatever at a higher ranking, and they aren't automatically outcompeted by players that can just go to like 10 shops all across their neighborhood or their country because they have the options to do so, because they have a car or maybe the funding to travel to a lot of places. So this gives everybody on an equal footing. Players that can go to multiple shops do have one advantage, and that's the fact that they have multiple shots at ending up at a higher ranking, because they have multiple tries at different local leaderboards. Now, I've been talking about points and leaderboards, so let's talk about this and how we can accumulate points across these multiple tournaments. And there are 4 ways how you can get points. The easiest one is just to participate. If you participate in a tournament, you're gonna get automatically 1 point. But if you perform very well within this tournament, you get even more points, because if you manage to get 3rd place, you get 2 points. If you get second place, you get 3 points, and if you win the entire tournament, you get 5 points. Keep in mind, this doesn't specify that it's added on top of the participation points, so it's basically you either get 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, or 5 points for that tournament that you're participating. So if you can perform quite consistently over multiple tournaments within that specific shop, you have a good chance to rank up very high on the leaderboard. Now, what's the whole point of getting all these points? Because there needs to be some prizes, and there are definitely some prizes. Because what they're gonna do is that at the end of the season, so once 8 weeks pass around or the 2 months are over, all the players within a certain shop that has at least 5 points, and this can be very easy to do if your shop hosts 5 tournaments within those 8 weeks, just participate in all 5 of them and you can get these 5 points. Then you get 1 participation promo card. What that specific promo card is, we don't know just yet, but you get a specific promo card. Then if you get 3rd place in that specific leaderboard, you get 1 copy of a special foil promo card. I'm not so sure if that is just a special foil of the promo card that everybody is going to get, or it's going to be a different promo card on top of that, because you also get the participation promo that everybody's going to get that has 5 points or more. And you get a certificate similar probably to you get at the regional if you finish as a second runner-up. I assume this is the same thing. Now for the second place, we get the exact same thing, only the person gets 2 special promos with a special foil. And if you happen to finish first in your leaderboard, you get the whole shebang, just like the second place, but instead of 2 special promos, you get 3 special promos, including the certificate, and I assume the normal participation promo. So you're gonna play for the certificate as well as these special promos. What these promos are, how they're gonna look, we don't know as of yet because we haven't seen the official prices, but we're probably gonna see them in the next coming month as we're leading up towards the first season in September. So if you have a locals or you have multiple locals in the area, definitely go look them up and hitting them up in the coming months, especially during this Bushiroad Shop League tournament series, as it's a good way to support your locals as well as engaging with other players, and another way to challenge your inner card fighter competitive spirit. Now with that news out of the way, let's take a look at actual card and set information. As one of the interesting things that was revealed to us today was a new information concerning the upcoming VBT 10 set, where we're going to have the whole Spike Brother Tachikaze Megakani set as well as Shadow Paladin, and they showcase this image. And this basically confirms 2 things. We're not gonna get only 1 ASR or another secret rare, which was Phantom Lester Overlord. We're also going to get it in the likes of Luard, and as you can see here, Morfessa. So this not only confirms we're gonna get more ASR cards for Shadow Paladin, of course, but we're also going to get Morfessa in some kind of shape or form. And that also with the fact that we know that we're going to get Drag Driver Luard, this Tried Fusion version of Luard. There are already quite a lot of Shadow Paladin cards confirmed. So this is going to be quite a jam-packed set for Shadow Paladin. But the interesting thing about the artwork for the Morfessa card here is that this artwork actually got leaked more than a month ago on Twitter by the actual artist himself. So I don't know if that was by accident or that Bushiroad allowed them to do this, because apparently this went over everybody's head, because I haven't seen this in any social media group for Facebook whatsoever once they revealed the artwork. And I think a lot of people just assumed it was fan-made or just a homage to Morfessa, and that they didn't assume that it was actually going to be artwork for an upcoming Shadow Paladin card. Granted, at the time, this was more than a month ago, we didn't know that Shadow Paladin would actually get support so soon, and definitely not that Luard would also make its return in that set. So maybe they did this as a teaser for maybe some very receptive people to caught on it, but to catch on upon it, but apparently nobody did. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. So from this point onward, guys, you need to look out on Twitter to all these artists, as potentially there is way more information out there that we don't know about upcoming sets, because these sets are definitely in the works months and months ahead. Now with that big information out of the way, let's dive into the actual card reveals today, as we got 3 new cards, 2 interesting promos, and 1 insane Oracle Thinking card that we need to discuss. So first off, we've got the new promo for Link Joker, which is Last Cross Moranel, and its ability is Auto Rigger Circle. When placed from hand, if your opponent has a face down card in his or her Vanguard circle or bind zone, aka something is bound with an effect, or their Vanguard is deleted, cost counter +1, choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards, bind them face down, and if 2 cards could not be bound, counters 1, soul charge 1. So if your opponent has only 1 card on the field, you can counter +1, bind it, then immediately counter charge and soul charge. So basically for free, you bound something and you soul charge, which is actually pretty good. And you might ask yourself, how does this actually work, as the card itself binds 2 cards, but then it states if 2 cards could not be bound. Well, in Vanguard, it basically is that you resolve its skill as much as possible. So if your opponent only has 1 rearguard, which I just explained in the example, then you bound that card, as this ability forced to bind 2 cards, but you can only do 1, so you resolve as much as possible. And because you can only bind 1 in that specific scenario, you fulfill the condition that you could not bound 2 cards. But there are also other ways that you can fulfill this condition, as this card states, choose 2. So if your opponent has cards on the field that cannot be chosen, aka they have resist effects or some other kind of pseudo resist effect, then even though they have multiple units on the board, you can still fulfill this condition, as you can potentially only pick 1 of their cards and then fulfill the condition as you didn't bound 2. So there are some ways you can set this up for anybody that isn't familiar with how skill interactions work within Vanguard. So overall, it's a pretty nice resource engine. It allows you to bind multiple cards if you want to. It's also very reminiscent and similar to an old Link Joker card that had the exact same scenario, only with locking, that if you could not lock 2 cards, it either gained, I believe it gained power, and it was also a grade 2 that could boost, which was pretty good for the Chaos engine. So this is somewhat similar to that, only instead of gaining power, it generates resources, which is always pretty good for Link Joker, especially as they have not a lot of ways to actively gain a lot of resources. They have some ways, but not the most optimal ones. And this is looking pretty interesting. Now, another interesting grade 2, but is very specific, and we immediately know where this is gonna go, is the new Kagura Gray 2, which is Dragon Dancer Frema. And this promo is very interesting, and you probably assume immediately where this card belongs to, as we're gonna take a look at the skills. As the first skill is Continuous Rearguard Circle. If your opponent has 1 or less rearguards, this unit gets boost. Well, this could be in any Kagura deck, as a lot of Kagura decks can retire, so this doesn't tell us anything. But its second ability does, as the second ability is Auto Rearguard Circle. When placed during your turn, if you have 2 or more grade 3 or greater units, this is already a very telling sign, costs Soul +1, retire all of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit, and if 1 or less rearguards were retired, draw a card. So this is similar to what we just explained with the Link Joker card, as how you can attain the potential draw a card effect. But this card is so obviously a support card for Blade Master, because Blade Master has a grade 3 Vanguard, and then you generate the Vision token, which is another grade 3, and meaning you fulfill the condition of then using the Soul Blast skill. And in that deck, you will always, and I mean always, get the Soul Blast effect off, because the moment that you have 2 grade 3s on the board, which one of them is the Vision token, you just field wiped your opponent, meaning they don't have any rearguards to retire, so this card is basically an unplayed Soul Blast draw, which is pretty good, especially seeing that this is then basically a 10k booster, which means it's a very versatile card in whatever situation. And with the new Blade Master Soen, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will always get the draw effect if you have the token, because you can generate a token, and if you do not have the Doa and the Garen, you don't get the field wipe. So in those scenarios, you can use this grade 2 to then maybe destroy a couple of cards, or if they have 1 column, they can just destroy 1 of those units and still get the draw, but also get the minus off of your opponent, which is pretty versatile in all types of scenarios. So this if we're gonna get this promo, could be a very good card for the upcoming Blade Master deck, which is quite interesting. Now, with those promos out of the way, let's talk about the actual new reveal that we are going to get in the upcoming Silver Dust Blade set. And that's the brand new RR Oracle Think Tank card, Diviner Kuroi Kazuchi. And Kuroi Kazuchi's ability is very similar to what we've seen already, and it is very close to my heart here, because you immediately know what I'm talking about, as its ability is act on Vanguard and Trigger Circle once per turn, cost Soul Blast 1, and discard a card from your hand, reveal the top card of your deck, and put it into your hand, and activate all of the trigger effects of the revealed card. If you revealed a normal unit, this unit gets power plus 6k until the end of turn. So it basically reveals the top card, and if it's a trigger, the trigger activates. Which basically means it's another drive check. And this is an Act on Vanguard and Trigger Circle skill, a once per turn skill, which has a single cost plus a discard, which then gives the Vanguard an extra drive check. This is basically a Oracle Think Tank version of Steam Skara Ear Cup. One of the strongest grade 2s in Gear Chronicle, arguably one of the strongest grade 2s in the game right now, at least in the standard side of things. And I'm gonna be honest with you, this is even better than Ear Cup. And that's even on just looking at these cards face to face, and then also allowing Ear Cup to gain the full capacity of its power when looking in combination with the Chrono Tiger Rebellion engine and whatever Gear Chronicle already has. And that's just looking at this card on its own. And the reason for that is, and why I'm saying that, is for one, this costs a Soul Blast, meaning it's a lot of hell cheaper than the Counter Blast variant for Ear Cup, especially in Gear Chronicle that has no counter charging. So this is already a lot better. A second thing is that this card can gain power, meaning it can potentially be a 15k beater. Ear Cup is just a 10k vanilla after it uses a skill, and usually is the weakest attack that you generate on a turn, and if you could, you would replace it, but you rather do not want to do that because you can use the skill potentially next turn. But because of the Counter Blast, not always the case. With this card, because of the Soul Blast, that's actually might be very possible. But because this card gets an additional 6k, means you get way more value out of all your potential drive check. And that's also a major thing. Ear Cup only gets value off of that second drive check if it's a trigger. If it's not a trigger, you don't actually get value off the effect, only the potential that your opponent needs to guard more. But in the early game, 99 out of 100 times, your opponent is just going to say no guard to the attack. And that's the value in that whole attack, is that they're going to say no guard and you hope you get double crit. But then again, if you do not get value out of that try check with a trigger, the Ear Cup basically did nothing. In this case, no matter what you drive check, you will always get value because either it's a trigger, so you get the trigger effect, or it's a normal unit and this unit gets an additional 6k power. So in whatever scenario, it's much better than the Ear Cup. But that's just looking at this card in its own bubble, without looking at anything else the whole deck wants to do. If we take a look at this card in combination with what we already seen with Oracle Think Tank with the new cards, holy crap! This is exactly the card that Oracle Think Tank needed to make the deck go from here all the way to here. Because of the fact they got the new Ichikishima and God of the Sun Amaterasu. Those cards were already going to be played at the 4-off in the new deck, especially in the Susanoo deck, because they are really that good. But they lacked more support cards to actually make them more consistent and more threatening. This card is exactly what they needed, because a lot of cards in Oracle Think Tank reveal the top card and leave them there, meaning you are forced to bind the Ichikishima and Amaterasu themselves with their own effect to gain the extra 10k and potential crit. But what you much rather want to do is reveal them and then add them to your hand. There are a couple of ways that you can do that, but most of the effects do not allow you to do that and are forced to bind them immediately. This card allows you to reveal them and add them to your hand so you can bind something else, which is probably less relevant than those cards. And that means you get an immediate effect out of those special effects, making this card even better as it increases the consistency of hitting those units. And if you hit an Ichikishima, That means your Vanguard gets an additional 10k, this unit gets an additional 6k, and you have an Ichikishima in your hand, which you potentially can call if you want to be aggressive. And this is another point about this card, what makes it so much better than Ear Cup. Ear Cup gets value with the drive check, meaning it's a delayed card advantage, as the card advantage comes in the drive check, so the fastest you can use them is in a defensive guard step the next turn when your opponent's turn, or when the turn comes back to you and you can call them. In this case with Kuroizachi, you get the card during your main phase, meaning if it's a good grade 2, grade 1, or whatever card you can utilize the turn, you can immediately call to the board to be very proactive. That's a major player here, especially when you want to go aggressive and set things up for a powerful Susanoo turn the following turn. But leading back to the Ichikishima situation, if you reveal the Ichikishima, Vanguard plus 10k, he plus 6k, and you have an Ichikishima in hand. If this was your grade 2 turn, that's a very powerful grade 2 turn you just generated. But you can also reveal potentially the Goddess of the Sun Amaterasu, and that gives the Vanguard a crit, 10k, and this unit 6k. That's the same as revealing the trigger, but also giving this unit additional 6k, which is a lot of value, and you want to have that Amaterasu to your hand for your grade 3 turns, as Amaterasu's rearguard is insanely strong, and this allows you to get those cards to hand, which is really good. And for some reason, nobody is actually talking about this card online. I see hardly any discussion on the different social media boards, Twitter, Facebook, or whatever, which is really baffling to me. And I understand it's OTT, it's Oracle Think Tank. Not a lot of people care about this clan all that much, but you have to look at this card. You cannot sleep on this card. This card is gonna be insane and very much likely gonna be the next big expensive double R. Look at the price value that you've seen with Ear Cup. As I explained, this is a better Ear Cup. And I'm not joking, I'm not over-exaggerating this card, I'm stating the fact. And that's coming from a Gear Chronicle main that honestly, to God, just want to praise Gear Chronicle and saying it's the only #1 clan and it's the strongest cards out there. But this card is just infinitely better than what Ear Cup is trying to be. Because if Ear Cup allows you to add the card to your hand immediately and allows you to activate the skill effect, and you could potentially use them, oh God, that would be insane. But that's basically all the information that we got today. Even though it was a off week, we still got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. We got the new tournament circuit information, how everything's going to be played out for the next coming month. We got some interesting insight to the upcoming VBT10 with Shadow Paladin, and of course some new promos and an insane Steam Skyr Ear Cup Oracle Think Tank version that's probably gonna wreck the secondary market the moment this card hits the Japanese format and eventually the English format, which I honestly cannot wait to see that dumpster fire. But with that said, let me know in the comments down below all your thoughts and opinions about the new tournament or the new shop tournament league, as well as this new card for Oracle Think Tank, as there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So hit me up in the comments down below all your thoughts and opinions. And as always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Vanguard Insider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, then head over to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a Patreon today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Timely, and I see you guys in the next one.